How are you?
Good. We'll just wait a little bit then for Rachel to
Oh,
join.
she's ready. She's ready. I'm just gonna tell my others not to FaceTime.
Okay. Okay.
Uh,
Okay. Well, then I will just
Rachel is looks like she's coming. She's coming now.
okay.
So Rachel and me, online meeting. Do not FaceTime because we FaceTime each other a million times a day. Hello.
Hi, Rachel.
Hello, can you hear me all right?
Yes. Yes, we
Yeah,
can.
I've turned off my fan because I didn't want that to interfere.
Okay. Yeah, that makes
Because
sense.
I
I had
know
the
how
window
it can be.
open and I'm like,
Yeah,
let
I've
me
just
see
opened it
because
here.
yeah,
How
I can
hot
hear
is
all
it
the
there?
people outside.
How hot
It's
is
hot.
it?
Yeah. Yeah, it's hot. But I
Well,
mean, obviously the good thing is that for the most part we're always inside, so it doesn't really affect all that much. But
it's supposed to be cooler because it's raining. It is not cooler. It is hot. It is muggy. It is. We haven't slept, have we, Rachel?
Oh my gosh, no, no. Although mine was probably because I had caffeine a bit too late yesterday, as
Oh,
well
did
as
you?
it being too hot. Yeah, yeah, that was my fault. Yeah, I've told the boys to be quiet, and yeah, they're doing all right so far. I'm slightly worried that my video is just going to do that thing that it likes to do sometimes, where it freezes.
okay.
If it does that, I will just have to turn it off and back on again. But we'll just
Yeah, because it
Okay.
usually freezes on the most
like, yeah,
unflattering pictures.
Yeah, of course. That's always the case. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. So I just wanted to thank you guys for joining, making the time. Obviously, I know that both of you have
Right.
full busy lives and families and everything to take care of, so I really appreciate it. Um, and I just wanted to give just like a little bit of an intro first before we get started. Then I'll read both of your guys' intros and then we'll get started with questions.
This is going to happen.
Cool.
Yes, I was gonna say I
Yeah,
just
yeah, we're gonna have cat
like
invasions.
okay, so this is my name is Iman, obviously, and this is Beyond the Rough Draft, the series I started while fighting through the chaos of my own romantasy draft. You guys obviously know everything about that. It can feel like such a solo mission, but it doesn't have to be. So, in each episode, I'll be talking to people like you, writers from all stages, how they manage the messy parts of creativity, because I feel like obviously people who are in our same situation, if they hear something like this, maybe they can find um, either adopt, copy any mantras or rituals that you guys use to help get them unstuck and move forward with their draft. So I will read a little bit about your bio first, Rachel. So, based in the UK, Rachel is a writer currently working on her debut, a NA speculative novel about the power of dreaming. Her background is in English literature and psychology, two areas she hopes to bring into her writing with the focus on mental health, neurodivergence, and inclusion. She is a keen reader of SFF, obviously science fiction fantasy, psychological thriller, and romance, and when not reading or writing, can be found chasing after two children or frolicking at a fantasy themed ball. And Michelle is a busy lady with six grandchildren, six cats, and dreams of seeing her stories in bookshops and maybe even the big screen. As an ex deputy head teacher, singer, and academic journals contributor, storytelling is the thread that has run through her career. Her academic background is in computing and English language and literature, and she's on the final edit of her debut novel, whilst resuming a second she started 40 years ago. Wow. Okay, so obviously no one knows this, but I will mention this now that both Rachel and Michelle are actually mother and daughter. So I feel like that is an extremely rare dynamic that happens in the creative field. I feel like most of us, like I mentioned before, most of us feel like we're doing it alone. So the fact that you two are able to do it together and bounce ideas off of each other and kind of be each other's support system in that aspect, I feel is really great. So I feel like when I'm talking to my parents or to my sister about it, they kind of get like this glazed look sometimes. They don't understand what it is that I'm talking about. My mom was telling me, "Oh, I just watched the movie about a novelist. And I thought that all you had to do was just write the damn thing and that was it. You'd be published. I'm like, there's a little bit more to it than just that.
Only.
Yeah, yeah. I wish it could be that easy, but yeah, it's just
Me too.
so much more that goes along with it. So obviously, I'm not saying that they're not supportive. They definitely are, but it's just different, of course, when you're going through the same thing. So um, something else too that obviously the audience is not aware of is that Rachel and I know each other. We have a biweekly meeting that we do to try to help each other, motivate each other to finish our books. And we met at a Jericho Writing Festival last year in London. So, yeah, I feel like that's a nice fact to let people know that we've been through this journey for a little bit now together.
Yeah.
And yeah, definitely feel like without your encouragement, I still would have been stuck on like the first. I'm still stuck, but I would have been even, I wouldn't have pushed through as much as I have. So yeah, I really appreciate it. So I'll just get into like the questions now. I just wanted to know, like, between obviously Rachel, in your case, creativity does run in your family growing up because obviously your mother's also a writer.
Mm.
But Michelle, in your case, was that the same? Like, were your parents creative, or did they nurture that when you were younger?
Very much so, in that particularly my mother. My dad was very creative in terms of electrical things and building things he could do. And he then, very unusually actually, got into computers. He ended up working for Amstrad, Alan Sugar, and helped sort of design the first computers. So he got into computing and was really creative with things to do with wiring. So he had a massive mast in his garden that he could do his radio ham to people all over the world, which was unheard of. You know, he was the first people to have color TV that he would wire up to some magical thing. But my mum, my lovely, lovely, nearly 91-year-old mum, is very much at the heart of this. She is so creative. She can turn any piece of material into beautiful clothing. Not so much now with the arthritis, but
Mm.
she always told us stories. And I know Rachel and my other two children will remember. She has a knack of personifying everything, be it a pencil or a sausage in a pan or a bird outside. And she would tell us all stories throughout our whole life. So I'm very lucky in that I had her. She is definitely a massive contributor to both me and Rachel and my other children's sort of journey.
Oh, okay. Wow. So then, I mean, in terms of both of you, obviously Michelle with Rachel growing up, like, how did you nurture her creative energy, or when was it that you saw that she was really? When did she really come to you, telling you that she was interested in writing?
Well, Rachel being my first, as most first children, don't come with a book that tells you how to deal with them. So you have to kind of work it out. And it
Mhm.
didn't take very long to work out that Rachel, be careful here because your head might grow a bit. She's very smart, very, very observant, and had a very serious side to the world. So when people would lean into her pram to smile, she'd kind of lean back and be thinking about it. And so she would play for hours with little small creatures, making up stories and sorts of things, and draw. So I used to spend Saturday mornings would be a drawing. I'd get rolls of old wallpaper and even buy cheap ones, roll them out on the table, and we'd have all sorts of pens and papers, and we would sort of draw stories really. So you know, whoever was up that end would draw something on the other end, and then I would set up her toys at night when she went to bed, so she'd always wake up in the morning and she'd always tell stories with her little figures and read. I think that's one of the key things. If you can read to your children and get into them a love of reading, a lot of it happens in here, because I love movies of books, but the books are no match for any of them because it's all in here. And I think Rachel was like that so young. It was easy to foster because she's interested in the world, she's observant, and loves her books.
Yeah, yeah. And what about you, Rachel? Like, when was it that you realized that you wanted to write? How long did it take you to actually push yourself to do that, or did you not have any I guess, fears in terms of doing that right away?
Oh gosh, I don't know. So I suppose I made up stories a lot when I was little. I remember
Mhm.
writing a story when I was in year 7. So I must have been about, I don't know, 12 or 13 in school. And really getting into it and like filling up half of my book in school, which was not what we were really meant to do, but I kind of got carried away and really loved it. I mean, it was kind of based loosely on a game called Zelda at the time, Zelda and the Ocarina of Time, and I really liked some creatures in there. So I made up a whole story about someone going into their world, and I loved it. I don't know where that is, but that was probably the first full story that I wrote, and then I think I wrote on and off for years really. And then I did an English literature degree and decided I'd had enough of stories for a while, and didn't read a lot after that. And so I think it took quite a few years of bits of stories. I still, in fact, even now when I'm sort of clearing out, I'll find a notebook or a sketchbook with jotted down ideas or like the first 10,000 words of something written and think, oh yeah, I remember that. But it's not been until the last couple of years I actually sat down and wrote something fully, just because life gets in the way. And I think there's that feeling of, you know, am I really qualified to do this? Can I actually write? You know, writers are people over there that are kind of, they know that they're going to write, and they sort of, you know, they're born thinking, yes, this is for me, and you know, do it as a first career. I've obviously since learned that's not at all the case. But yeah, I think it took a long time before I felt like I could actually write something in full as an adult.
Yeah. And so then, Michele, were you already writing when you had Rachel, or did you start writing a lot later?
Yeah, I started writing really, really young. There was a movie that you may or may not know, and listeners may or may not know, called Rosemary's Baby, which is quite scary. And I remember being completely unsatisfied with the end. So I had my little typewriter that my mum and dad had bought me, and I typed my own rewrite of the end and what happened next because I wasn't satisfied. And I even remember in sort of, I don't know how old I must have been, 6, 7. I remember in school writing a story that the teacher particularly loved and decided to read it out. So I'd always done it for fun. I liked writing for fun. And then, as Rachel said, life does get in the way, and on the, you have to go to work and you have to do things, and we didn't have technology to help us then, and we didn't have we used to cook a lot more and do a lot more things, so time was very short. But I used to write about being pregnant and my birth stories, and Rachel is my eldest of 3. I was pregnant for 5 years running and had 3 children in 3 years, so I had a lot to write about. And so I had some things included in National Childbirth Trust magazine. So I decided to do some writing and submit things like jokes, some of which were adopted because I do quite like humor.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. Wow. So then, Rachel, like seeing your mom already doing this type of thing, do you think that helped you maybe move forward in that same path, or?
Yeah, I think so. I think because storytelling has always been such a big part of our family. So my nan's always told stories. I think as well, when we were little, Mum used to record stories for us to listen to when we went to sleep as well. So we'd hear her stories, and there'd always be okay, I finished the story now, it's time to go to bed. If you would like one more, you know, here's another one, and there'd be another story, and we'd just sit and listen to them like half the night. So I think telling stories and writing stories has always been there. And I think when you see someone do that, it feels more accessible. So yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of writing and storytelling and art as well in our family. And because we just did that a lot since we were little, yeah, it felt more accessible.
And do you both like bounce off ideas also? Wait, maybe like with obviously Rachel, your grandmother in your case, and Michele, your mom, or?
Definitely. I mean, it's thanks to Rachel that I've kind of got off my backside and started getting serious about finishing all the stories that were started. And I mean, there are a lot that I've sort of started, a lot of ideas scribbled down in various notebooks or whatever. And it was only when Rachel thought, I'm going to have a go at this, that I thought, why have I left it this long? Why have I done that? I'd kind of gone sideways by writing in some academic journals, being a teacher. And it was actually when I did my Masters of Teaching, I was approached by one of the lecturers who asked if I would write something with him, and then approached by somebody about the use of computing and IT in lessons. So I kind of got sidelined a little bit and did some published work there. But all the time are these ideas that I've shared with Rachel and the other two, about comedy. I like comedy, and I like to write about comedy. So it has always been around, but I have to say it is thanks to Rachel sort of knuckling down that I've got myself into gear, really.
Well, yeah, that's good. I mean, that's why I feel like having this dynamic definitely can help inspire each other to move forward. Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I think as well, so I guess it's not just us. So you have shared, your novel at the moment with Nan, and she's read things like when we did a flash fiction competition, we sent those to her, so she's looked at those, but also my sister and sister-in-law as well, so they all beta read, and my cousin as well, who's beta read yours, and so yeah, I think we kind of, as a family, bounce off each other and share ideas. I often find if I have an idea for a story, in order to get a plot sorted in my head, I just need to tell someone. I don't need to just sort of like get it all out in one go, and that I'll normally do that to mum.
A good example though is, it was my birthday recently, and we shared a takeaway round at my daughter-in-law's house, and there was Rachel, my daughter-in-law, my other daughter, and we spent the whole time talking about what we'd written, books, so on, and Rachel's latest idea. We talked it all through at the table. We all chipped in about what we thought. Fabulous, absolutely fabulous.
Yeah, it's like it ends up being like a workshop. So it's really nice.
Yeah, and a free workshop too.
Yes, yeah. And with people
Sometimes
who read that kind of genre, so it's really nice.
Mhm. Yeah. What is it about writing that scares you both the most, and how do you face it, whether it's individually or together?
I think we do face things together, because I will speak to Rachel and say, oh, it's rubbish. What I've written is rubbish, or no one's ever going to want to read this. And Rachel has done similar to me. However, we've been very lucky that we've both not been in that same place at the same time. So we've been able to encourage each other. And actually, I think the scariest thing for me is that nobody will want to read it, really. How awful that you've spent so much of yourself and time and energy, and people aren't interested. Makes me feel quite sad just saying it.
It won't be the case. It won't be the case. But I think that's what every writer worries about, isn't it? That, no one's going to really understand it, or they'll misinterpret it, or think what you've written about is somehow something deep and meaningful about you in a certain way that it's not, or it would just get misunderstood, really. And yeah, I think that's tricky. I think the other thing that I find difficult, I suppose it's more of a challenge than a fear, but is when you're writing and editing, it seems like there are infinite possibilities of how you can write that chapter or that scene or that sentence, and that thought of, have I picked the right one? Have I said that in the way that best expresses the thing that I have in my head? Have I put it on the page in the right way? And are other people going to be able to interpret that? Because obviously, we can't know. We can only see it from our perspectives. So I think that's one of the things that I find quite difficult. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, most of creatives, I feel like their biggest fear is that no one will like their work.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how is it that you try to move past that fear? So you basically just talk to each other about it. You reassure each other that you're going on the right track.
Yeah, I call Rachel. Before or I turn up randomly at her house, which I do quite frequently, and I just say, "Oh, Or actually, Rachel has noticed that I haven't been writing, and will say, "Have you done any writing?" "Oh no, I haven't done any today." And then I'll spill that, "Oh, I just think it's awful, and I don't know how to move from A to B," and there is a something in talking it through with each other, I find. Do you think so, Rachel?
Yeah, absolutely. I think chatting through, and I think, Iman, we found this as well in our kind of working groups as well, that just having someone else to bounce ideas off of, or we'll sometimes say, could we do something this way, or could we do it that way, or we'll say, I'm worried about this, and then we'll end up saying to each other, actually, no, that sounds great, that sounds fine. And it's just that little bit of reassurance. I think the other thing that I find really helps is just reading, and particularly listening to stories. So I think maybe because we've got so much of that storytelling, I guess, from Nan telling us stories a lot, as well as reading, I like to read physical books, and I like to read on Kindle as well, but I really like to hear them. There's something about having someone tell you the story, and then for me, it kind of helps me imagine telling myself the story, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And or imagine a narrator that you particularly like telling you your own story. I find that really helpful to get back in the swing of things, or just being somewhere different. I find that really helpful as well. Or if I
Yeah,
get
that's
out
true.
of my space, it kind of helps me get out of my own head. So getting
That's very true, actually, because we've talked about this before, haven't we, about writing outside the house. And obviously, Iman, you mentioned Jericho Writers. We've found that having people like yourself, having a community of people who get it, is hugely important. But thinking back to what you were saying, Rachel, about being in a different space, I recently was due to go on a cruise with my friend, and day before we were due to go, she got poorly and couldn't go. So I went on my own and thought, okay, I'm going to treat this like a writing retreat. So I moved around the ship everywhere with my laptop and my headphones so I could just get in. I did not get a lot of editing done because everyone was so lovely and stopped with a, "Are you on your own? Do you want to, come sit with us or whatever?" But being near, seeing the sea and being relaxed and having enough sleep and letting somebody else do the cooking and just provide this food got me in such a space that I came up with a whole new idea for a book. And Rachel knew it was coming throughout the week. It sort of developed. And I also found myself lots of beta readers who were like, "Oh, what are you writing? Oh, that sounds interesting." I think it's incredible to have different spaces, get in the relaxing space and see your community.
Yeah. So did a lot of these beta writers, yeah, I was going to say, I pronounce it differently. Did a lot of them come through?
They're doing it now. They're doing it right
Oh,
now. Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's great. Wow. So then when it comes to like trying to move forward with any when you're stuck or anything like that, those are basically the mantras or rituals that you guys have adopted, maybe going somewhere else, speaking to people about it and
Yeah,
reading.
I think going to conferences or going to author panels, so hearing other writers talk, as well. I think just being generally near like-minded people and hearing them talk about their ideas is inspirational. It doesn't necessarily move my idea forward in that I'm not having a conversation with them about my idea, but I think it kind of gets the creative juices flowing a bit, and it gets you
Yeah.
feeling ready to move forward. So yeah, I mean, like we said, we've all been to Jericho Festival, and we went again this year, and I'm now kind of on the lookout for lots of different conferences, and I'm kind of the mindset that actually the more that I say yes to, the more I can go to, the more helpful it will be, because I think just being around people that love writing and love reading just helps you get in that headspace.
And on a practical note, you don't have to actually go out if you don't want to. And I'm thinking of a lovely editor we met who is confined to a mobile scooter most of the time. And you know, if you're in that position, or you are like I was, I had 3 very young children, couldn't go out. We are lucky that there's so much online now, and there's so much free stuff you can access. You don't have to spend a fortune. You can buy writing courses and all sorts, but you know, A, for the communities, and B, just for listening to other people. There are podcasts and there are all sorts out there, and it just, as Rachel says, gets you going. I mean, there have been days when I thought, oh, I could never write like that, but of course you can't. That's not you. But yeah, you don't have to spend any money. You don't have to actually go anywhere, although obviously it works for me. Just get creative, go looking online.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I mean, both of you, obviously, like I mentioned before, have your families, you have kids. So, I mean, what would you say to like mothers who want to write but feel like they don't have the time to write, or they have too much going on?
Yeah, so I guess I know a lot of people really like to set goals of like 1,000 words a day or 500 words a day. I think if it works for you, it works for you. If it means you're going to end up feeling like you failed if you don't reach that target, then maybe it's not a helpful thing. I found that the notes app on my phone is my friend. So if I'm somewhere and, you know, I'm putting fish fingers in the oven, or I'm, you know, on my way to work or something like that, if I've got an idea, I can jot it down quickly, and then I can know that it's somewhere safe and I can come back to it later. I think also, you know, there's a lot of advice out there that says you're not writing the book unless you're sat down writing the book. But also, for all of that, there's a lot of advice that says writing doesn't always mean words on the page. It can be thinking about your characters, imagining a scene. You know, if you can't get in front of your laptop or computer or whatever it is, you can still be forwarding the story, like advancing it by thinking through dialogue, or, you know, looking at a new place and thinking, oh, that might be a nice location for my next scene, or hey, that conversation I just overheard sparked something for the character dialogue that I want to move on. So I think it's just about finding a rhythm that works for you and just grabbing bits of time where you can. That's what I found anyway.
Oh, you're absolutely right. And it does depend on you, and you have to try things to know if they work or not. But you know, the notes app on your phone or whatever is your friend, but so are notebooks. I mean, this novel that I've resurrected after 40 years, I have got written notes on that. I've even got a back of an envelope where I started writing something when I was out once. I've still kept that from a long time ago. And then, you know, I find a nice fresh notebook and a nice pen will often get me writing, but then it stops. So I think use everything you can. Use notebooks, use bits of paper, use notes app, use voice to text. Speech to text is so underrated, but you get ideas at any time, and you will find everybody says this. I certainly get this from comedy writers who suddenly see something and it pings an idea, and you have to get it down, because if you don't, you never quite remember it, you know, as you think it was. And I think because we both work with people, working with other people and seeing other people often makes you think, oh, what if, the classic question. And I was picking up one of my grandchildren in school, and I was looking at this lovely old lady. She was just so lovely. I say that and I'm quite old, but lovely old lady. And she was so sweet, and I thought, wouldn't it be interesting if she went around killing people that people asked her to because they were horrible? And I was stood in the playground getting this whole idea in my head, thinking, I need to write this down somewhere. So thinking time is also hugely important. Plus, as Rachel has said, we're quite arty. So we do have creative days. So that will be Rachel and my other daughter and my daughter-in-law. And my daughter-in-law may sit and sew something, and my daughter, who's an artist, will probably draw something or sew something, and I will be there with bits of paper drawing out characters and linking up on a diagram, and Rachel will be doing the same. So whatever works for you is right.
Yeah, makes sense. And yeah, I mean, I've heard that too, where people say, you know, that only if you're writing, it means that you're actually writing, and that's not the case at least not with like meetups and writing sessions that I've had. They always say also in the beginning, you know, brainstorming, outlining,
Yeah.
thinking of things up in your head. I mean, trying to even brainstorm, just like you said, without writing anything down is also part of the writing process.
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
But yeah, just obviously eventually write it down because otherwise
Yeah.
you can't just have it all in your head all the time. So yeah.
No, you can't.
Yeah.
What does the writing process look for both of you like on your good and bad days?
Oh, okay. A good day would be I wake up and I'm really in the story. So I wake up thinking about a scene and I think, great, I've figured out a problem to whatever plot hole or whatever issue I was having the day before, and I'll get up and I'll sit down and I'll be able to write, and I'll write a few thousand words. Obviously, that's assuming I'm not at work, no one else needs me at the time, I don't get distracted by chores, all of those kind of things. And then I will feel like I've made some progress. Whether I go back the next day and change it or is another matter. I've kind of done some. A bad writing day, I think, will be a day where maybe I feel uninspired or I feel a bit stuck. And then added to that, there are too many other responsibilities and things that are happening that mean that I don't have time to sit and work it through in my head. So I know that I'm stuck, and I also know that I don't have time to move on from it. So either I'll do no writing or I'll do a small amount and it's kind of like in pieces. And I'm sort of doing a sentence here and there, and I go back and look at it and think it just doesn't hold together. And why did I bother with the time that I had? Yeah, so I think it really varies for me.
Yeah.
You're so right. And I think a good day, you just know that something has worked or you've moved something forward. And you have to acknowledge that even thinking through something is moving it forward. A bad day, well, I think it's when Rachel FaceTimes me and I'm sat here is a good day. And if she FaceTimes me and I'm sat in front of the TV in the other room, it's not a very good day. I just find it very difficult some days to get into that mode. You've been to work. I don't know, the washing machine's broken down. You've got a letter asking you for some money for a bill you've paid. All these other life things that need sorting out, and I sometimes just cannot put them over there to get to writing. I think sometimes you just have to acknowledge I'm not going to get much done today, so I console myself with but actually not doing it today means I'll be fresher tomorrow. So I'm always trying to put a positive spin on the bad days because you're going to have them.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Do you feel like you both have more good days than bad, or the other way around?
I mean, I would say I would say I have more good days than bad. I would say,
Yeah.
again, a bad day can be turned into a good day if you're talking to other writers. I
Yeah.
think that, one of the things that we were told quite early on was to find your tribe. And I think I really underestimated how important that is, and how nice it is to have other people to talk to. And I think you can feel really stuck and speak to someone and then, not necessarily write anything, but somehow move it on in your head. And then it feels productive again. So yeah, I would say I have more good days, but probably because I rely, on other people like both of you to kind of help move on if I'm feeling a bit stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say more good days than bad days because even on a bad day, I'm thinking, I haven't written anything, I haven't finished that scene, or I haven't written that. So that's kind of a good day. So yeah, definitely more good days.
Yeah. And I also kind of feel like sometimes good days and bad days are subjective, right? Someone thinks
Completely.
that bad day is really bad because instead of writing, like what you were saying, Rachel, instead of writing maybe 500 words, they only wrote 200. In reality, that can be a good day because at least you're 200 words further than you were before.
Yeah, and those 200 could be a 200 that sticks throughout all of your drafts. You might change loads of other things, but you spent so much time on those 200 that actually they endure and they just really work. I can find
Yeah.
that sometimes I'll write paragraphs and paragraphs and then I'll go back to edit and think, oh, actually, I didn't need this entire scene. I can kind of summarize this as that happened yesterday in a few sentences. And then that's, couple of thousands of words gone, or I'll have something where I've written a sentence and then it stays from draft one. And you just, I guess you don't know what those what those days are going to be, which ones are the ones where you have the work that stays and the work that you rehash. But you know, any progress is progress.
Yeah,
I think between us, we've just kind of worked out that there aren't any bad days. They're just days where we don't necessarily measure in the ways we'd like to. So maybe we've just invented a new way forward.
yeah. Yeah, because also, I mean, you could also feel like maybe you're having a really good thing, like, hey, I'm inspired, I'm writing all this, and then you read and you're like, this is crap.
Yeah, it happens. It really happens.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I did that recently. I wrote this lovely thing, and I thought, you know what, this has no value at all, and it was gone.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah, it can definitely be really subjective. Just because you think you might have had a bad day doesn't necessarily mean that's actually the case. So yeah. How do you guys quiet the inner critic, or maybe not quiet it because I don't think that's possible, but try to maybe not live with it, but move past it, kind of keep it there, obviously keep it there with you, but kind of be able to kind of write over that obstacle, that internal obstacle.
I think it's what you were saying, Rachel, about find your tribe. I think, you know, you need to find your own ways, your support systems, and you know, we do rely on each other and the family for that. There's no doubt, but we've also got as well as I know Rachel speaks to you regularly, we've also got another little band that we met in Jericho, not this year, the year before, who are ladies more my age. Rachel is the youngest group, and we just help each other by letting each other know how we're doing, what's going on, and there is such wisdom in the group. You know, we're women from very different places in terms of not just geographically, which is the case, but in terms of life commitments and writing styles and genres and what we're doing and where we are. And literally just talking to them can make me think, yeah, it's okay, I can do this. You know, everybody else is having the same problem. Do you think, Rachel?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, I think you're right, Iman, that you never get rid of that inner critic. And I don't know that you always want to, because I think that's sometimes what pushes you to go, actually, is this as good as I can make it? We had a very interesting talk. I think it was Ruth Ware spoke about this, and she was saying, actually, would I want it to go? Possibly not, because it helps me be a better writer. It kind of challenges me to say, is this the best that I can make it? If not, let me push it further. And I think that's a really valid point.
Yeah.
So I think being able to learn to live with it, listen to it when you can, don't let it stop you altogether. But I think just remembering that all writers have had it, and you know, like you said at the start, writing can feel really lonely. I think even when you know other writers, even when you're related to other writers, when you're in it, you know, your story is yours, and it can feel like a lonely process, but every other writer has been there, and every other writer has had that moment where they've kind of completely doubted their story, or you know, maybe it's just a chapter or a paragraph or a sentence, but that self-doubt is, I think, just a part of writing, which is tricky in an industry where there are lots of rejections and lots of waiting, you know, and lots of gray areas. But yeah, and I think also remembering why you're writing in the first place. You know, are you doing it because you have a message that you really want to get out into the world, or are you doing it because you just love it and it would feel wrong not to write? You know, are you doing it you know, I guess whatever reason it is, maybe it's a combination of those, maybe it's something else, but I guess going back to that motivation, that I find for me sometimes then can outshine that voice that's like, oh, actually, is this good enough? Can you do this? Are you sure this is for you? Yeah.
Do you have that on, because I remember when I was first trying to figure out, you know, how I could move forward and get past the inner critic and that internal obstacle that we all have. I saw somewhere where they said that you should, right in front of you, wherever it is that you do your writing, put why you're doing it. Like maybe write a post-it note or put it on the whatever bulletin board that you might have hanging up, and put why, the reason exactly, exact reason why you're writing? Like, do you do that, or do you have something like that?
I don't have anything written, but I know why I've written the book that's done now, and I wrote that because I needed to write down in a sort of cathartic way and a sort of support way for me how awful it was to watch my dad, who was so smart, watch him die of dementia, and watch people who I thought were experts in his nursing home who weren't. And it was so traumatic in the sense, and you know it's coming, you know they can't do anything about it, but the whole thing was just so unexpected. The feelings, I just had to get it down. It's sort of a tribute to him, but also once I'd realized it's a tribute to him, I thought there are so many other people that need to know this. There are so many other people that need to understand. So I've that is really firm. With my novel I started 40 years ago, I think there is going to be a similar message that about that. It's very different, but there is a message there, and it is about dealing with your own thoughts. The characters are not me, and as Rachel has said before, people sometimes think that everything you write is you, and you do draw on things. But I think because I've got that strong feeling inside, I know why I'm doing it. I don't need to write it down. I know it. Have you written it, Rachel, anywhere?
So I've not written that. I do have, you probably can't see, but I do have a sort of board that more has kind of, I guess, themes for that particular book that's on there. And those link to, I suppose, sometimes it'll be messages that I want to get across. For me, I suppose there is that just knowing that now I've kind of refound writing and got back into it as an adult, I can't imagine not doing it. So I feel like that's just always going to be a driving force. But I think the other thing is being able to write and share your writing is actually a real privilege, whatever form that takes. Being able to feel safe enough to have the capacity, to have the time to write stuff down and share it with others, it is a really brilliant thing. And I think sharing writing and thoughts can be really powerful. You know, like we all know lots of examples of books that kind of change the world, and how much kind of trends can come about. You know, if we think about romanticy and things, how much a few select books change the reading tastes of, like, you know, hundreds and thousands and millions of people. But I think that's a really powerful thing, and a really brilliant thing to be able to do for anyone that does it, whether your readership is big or small, you know, whatever that looks like. So I think that's quite a nice driving force, just knowing that actually being able to do it in the first place is quite a privileged thing.
Yeah, that's true.
It's also a vulnerable thing, I think. You know, it is. I think people forget that. It is quite vulnerable. People are looking and criticizing, and so yeah, powerful, yes, vulnerable too, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, it takes a degree of bravery, I think, to share stuff. I think even, I know we've been doing it for a few years now, but even when you sort of hand something over to someone to read, it's kind of like this.
Yeah,
I want you to read it, but I also don't want you to read it. Yeah. I don't know that will ever go away. I often hear other authors kind of talking who are much further down the line, like decades and decades in, with lots of published books, and they seem to feel equally as awkward and squeamish about sharing their work for the first time. So I think it's just part of writing.
Yeah. What is it that they say? It's basically like sending your child out into the world.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Have either of you ever considered giving up writing, and what was it that pulled you back to it?
I mean, I never thought I'm not going to write again. I didn't write for a few years because I had babies to look after. I was a single mom. I had things to do, and it was just very hard. But I don't think I have ever thought I'm not going to write. And I think it's just, as I say, you know, Rachel's a big part in pulling me back into just do it. But I don't think I've ever thought I won't ever write again.
Yeah, I don't think I've ever thought of giving it up forever. I think, the idea of being able to pursue it as a career, which is obviously what I'm kind of aspiring to, is something that maybe a decade or so ago I felt didn't feel very feasible. When you're kind of just out of university or just into kind of the workplace and thinking about things like finding somewhere to live and paying bills and all of those kind of things, the idea of trying to rely on or make a living through writing to me felt like it was something that I couldn't achieve. And I think I didn't have confidence in my ability to do it, or the stability, I guess, of the whole writing and publishing world to be able to make a living to do it. But I think so I think I kind of parked it for a really long time. But I think getting a little bit older, just realizing that it's something that I love, I can't imagine not doing it, whether I ever make any money from it or not. It's just something that I love to do. So I don't think since rediscovering it, I've had the thought of I don't want to do it anymore. But I guess then that's a request to you, Iman, is if I come into the writing group and say I'm going to give it up, just remind me of this.
Yeah,
Remind me that I said I can't.
What did you say when we were doing the recording? You said no. So yeah.
Never. Yeah, exactly.
What do you think are your writing strengths, and where do you still feel challenged in the writing process?
That's so interesting.
Mm.
I am an underwriter, not in terms of insurance when they underwrite things, but I get to the point quite quickly, which is a strength and a weakness. But I think my biggest strength is probably writing dialogue. I have always seen and heard things, and I think that probably goes back to the fact that I really in my head, everything I'm writing is on TV or a screen. I can see people, I can hear people, having worked with people all my life. And so I think dialogue is my biggest strength, and my underwriting is a bit of a weakness. You're very different, aren't you, Rachel?
Yes. So I think, I guess because my background's, psychology and sort of emotional mental health, I think being able to imagine what a character's going through is something that I really enjoy, and I'll give a lot of attention to because I really enjoy it. But then I'll have a tendency to overwrite and really get into a character's head, and then I find dialogue more challenging, and that kind of really interesting and fun to play with. Tension between everything that's going on inside and then what is said on the outside. So whereas I think, Mum, you tend to have kind of smaller drafts first time round, I tend to have huge drafts first time round, and then we're kind of working in the opposite. You're kind of filling yours up, and I'm cutting mine down. So yeah, I think definitely being able to whittle down what I want to say into something a bit punchier. That takes some time for me.
Yeah, yeah. I felt like in the beginning when I first started writing, I was like your mom, Michelle. I would underwrite, but I feel like dialogue is always one of my biggest strengths. But then when I was being told in the very beginning of the process that I needed to write more, dialogue I feel for me is still pretty good, but now I feel like I'm writing too much. I'm like, what's going on?
Right.
so,
So hard,
so
isn't it? You can swing one way and another. It's,
mhm,
it's
yeah.
tricky.
What has surprised you both most about the writing journey, especially maybe seeing it unfold across generations between the two of you?
It's so hard. I mean, you said very early on, Iman, about just write the damn thing. And that's what I used to do. I used to just get an idea and I used to just write it, type it out on my little typewriter when I was younger. And then thankfully we've got computers, but I have handwritten stuff, and just spit it all out and get it all out. And then think, hang on a minute, there's no real hook in the first 500 words. And why do I need to know this here, and where is this going, and where does this loose end tie up, and hang on a minute, do I need that person to say that? It is really a difficult thing to do. Editing is really hard. You have to kind of step away, and I think learning that there is so much to it. You have to be in the head of every character. You need to understand what's going on in the setting, and it's not an easy thing to do. Rachel, what do you think?
Yeah, so I really agree with that. I think also I think I had, and it's probably my perfectionist tendencies, but this idea that if your idea for a story was really good, you know, your first draft would be amazing because the idea is so good. It would naturally, if the book itself is good enough, it would come out, you know, shining, and it would be in a close to polished state. Since redrafting a lot of times, a lot of times, I realized that actually I can kind of keep the idea, but chopping and changing and rewriting a lot doesn't mean that that original idea was a bad idea. It just means that it took a lot of time and is taking time to kind of polish and refine. It's like sort of chipping away at a marble statue idea, isn't it? It's, you know, you start with a chunk of rock and that is okay. It's going to take time to make it the thing that it needs to be. Yeah, and so I think that maybe stalled me a bit in the process, that I thought, actually, if I'm having to re-edit and change this and redraft, does that just mean this isn't, you know, this is a no-go for the start? But actually, I think I've learned, hearing other writers talk about the process, that's not the case at all. Actually, redrafting is a huge part of it, and that is normal, and that doesn't mean the idea is bad. I think the other thing is, you know, we've said it before, and I'll say it again, people, you know, you're writing, or I think I underestimated how important knowing other writers is, for the process and helping each other out, but also just general writer well-being, and feeling good about what you're doing and not feeling alone. And, you know, like we said, obviously we have that within our family, but I think it's really important to have it broadly, and really nice to speak to other people in your genre and different genres. I think the importance of that is way more than I ever expected. Yeah.
I mean, well, I was going to say all three of us, but I'm interviewing you guys. I know that I know that both of you are working still on books. You don't have anything self-published or out there in the moment, at the moment, but I know you obviously will very soon. So in terms of that, is there something in terms of what you're working on now that you want to share with us? Like, what is the latest project that you're working on? Will you give us some information on that?
Always. So the one I've sort of alluded to is book club women's fiction, very bittersweet, with a moral dilemma, a very morally complex family dilemma of assisted dying, but with dark comedy. And as I say, beta reader feedback is very good. I will be querying in the next few days. I've already spoken to an agent who is happy to hear from me. And I was invited last year actually to submit the full manuscript, but I hadn't finished it at the time. So I'm pleased to say that's finished. And cheekily, the other one that I've dug out from 40 years is another Black comedy set in 1985, before body positivity had hit the masses. A sort of Sweeney Todd meets Bridget Jones is coming soon too.
Yeah, so I'm querying the new adult speculative dark academia, so in the query trenches, and trying to distract myself as much as possible, which is why I'm working on a second dark academia novel, which is, I suppose, is more sort of paranormal, but again in that speculative new adult space. Yes, that's helping me get through the waiting of querying, which, as anyone who's queried those, is very stressful.
But that novel that Rachel's written is really good.
You have to say
that. I don't. I could have moved something else.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm sure it is. Obviously, I read the one that she has changed now.
It is very different.
Broken Dreamer one. Yeah. The architect ones. But yeah, I told her I was jealous of her writing chops. I was like, damn, I feel like I would have to get maybe 5 or 6 edits just to get to the level that she did. I'm sure was very few edits. So yeah, but that's something else that all creatives do. We need to stop comparing ourselves to other people.
We do, but we never will. We never will, because we have to, in order to make sense of something, we have to judge it and put it in a little compartment in our head, and so we will never stop comparing. And I don't think we can. I think we'll always do it, but we need to just switch it into that positive mode, because sometimes you could admire somebody's writing and think, actually, that wouldn't work. I mean, honestly, if Rachel wrote the book I've just written and vice versa, we could not use the writing styles that we had. And actually, Rachel, you've missed the opportunity to say that my book is good too. That should have come a bit sooner.
I was coming with that. Of course, it's amazing. Of course, it is. But I have to say that. No, it is amazing. Yeah, absolutely. I think, yeah. Yes, it is.
Just appreciate other authors for what they've done.
Yeah.
And know that they were where you are, and you might be where they are, and just appreciate the fact that we are all so different. I mean, I have no idea why I like killing people in a funny way in books. I have no idea. I just don't know, but it makes me laugh, and I like to laugh, and that's just my thing. Thankfully, if Rachel had written something similar, people might look at our family and worry just a little bit, but it hasn't happened. That doesn't mean you can't kill anyone in your books, Rachel, but I have to say, it is fantastic to have her to be able to rant at, or more often than not, we've come through. I've said, how about this? And we've ended up giggling at all the ways that I can kill people, or things that can happen. And, somewhere in the book, and it is brilliant.
Yeah. I think it's nice as well, just that, like with writing groups as well, just sharing each other's successes. So I know that when, Mum gets an agent and a book deal, I think I'm probably going to be as excited as you are, and vice versa. I think it's just, in the same, Iman, for us in our group, I think there's just, when you kind of build up that network of people, you share those successes together, and it's just such a nice thing.
I know, but I'm your mum, so when you were just invited to send off a manuscript and you were excited, I had to be all cool and calm, and there are ways you have to behave as a mother, because you're coming to, there's I have a role.
Of course. But no, I think the other thing I've seen a lot of is writers helping out other writers, and we've had it as well. Obviously, Iman, you beta read mine, and we've kind of, in our writing group, we help each other, and those are things that obviously we will do for each other for free, just because we want to help each other. And I think that's part of that sharing success.
And aren't other writers fabulous?
Yes.
Other writers that we've met are fabulous. I remember, that idea that if I tell somebody something, they might use it. Forget that. Everything's kind of been done. Just share and be as helpful and open as you can, because you get it back. Writers are fantastic people.
Yeah, they really are. But yeah, I mean, thanks so much, guys, for making the time and for coming on here, Michele and Rachel. And thanks everyone else for tuning in. Just wanted to say, obviously, every writing journey has its own rough patches, and your story might be the one that someone else needs to hear. So everyone just needs to keep showing up for your draft and for yourself, and that's me included. So yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you very much for having us.
You're welcome. Speak soon.
Bye.
Bye.